I was licensed back in 1966 when I took the test when I was 11 years old, got my license when I was 12. That was back when the novice was good for 1 year, and you were no longer able to be a novice after that. So I went down and took the general test. It was went to Robert E. Peary Junior High School in Gardena, California, and where I got licensed from a WA6 TRX, Don Ulray. And so I got to, my mom drove me and a friend of mine, John Radabaugh, downtown LA to take the test because you had to go to the government center. So we took the test there. You had to send and receive Morse code at 13 words per minute for the general. John passed the theory, I did not, but we got to ride the bus home. That's when life was a little bit different. I would not allow an adult to ride the bus home from downtown Atlanta. But I did eventually go back and take my test and got licensed. I built my first transmitter. At the time, novices were maxed out at 75 watts and had to be crystal controlled. But there is a book called, I can't remember I built the transmitter out, a 75-watt transmitter out of the ARRL handbook. But there is a book called Weekend Projects for Ham Radio or something to that effect. And it had a 3 to 5 watt transistor radio, a transistor transmitter. The transistor radio is different. That was a little 9-volt powered AM, FM radio, FM if you were really high class. So that was the start of my QRP time. QRP meaning low power. So I've been doing QRP for a long time. Back, we just had field day back when the Zuni loopers, if any of you recall the Zuni loopers, I got to work with them a little bit. Zuni loop, because in the Angeles Forest at the campground, there was a loop in one of the campgrounds called Zuni loop. So we went up there, put up multi-element 80-meter wire beams and such, and QRP 5-watt max, CW only, and that's when field day was a contest. And Stu, it is not a contest. Okay, but I went on a trip, travels with Agnes. Agnes is an evil entity. Her name is actually Sachiko. When I picked her up out of the store, her name was Versace. That was I didn't like that, so she became Sachiko. And then she didn't deserve a quality Japanese name, so I call her Agnes because she's evil. It's sort of an homage to John Steinbeck, Travels with Charlie. E.B. White was first requested by a publisher to write a book on traveling across the United States and seeing what the country was like. He backed out, and John Steinbeck took over and wrote the book Travels with Charlie. John Steinbeck is one of my favorite authors. So I plan on, it hasn't been finished yet, but I plan on writing an ebook on my travels with Agnes. So I got into Parks on the Air, we'll talk about that in just a second, but POTA, Parks on the Air, there are a couple of awards that you can get that are automatically done. You don't have a choice. You get an award whether you want one or not. And I was able to have the Workdoll States Award, which means as a hunter, you can be an activator or a hunter. As the hunter, I worked in park activation in every state in the United States. And I just started doing POTA in 2022. So there's also an award for activating from the states. So I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And so I activated 47 states. We'll get into why it's not 48. And I did not drive to Hawaii or Alaska. During that time, I activated 74 new parks to me, had 7,984 QSOs total. And I have a total of almost 21,000 POTA QSOs total at the website as an activator. And I drove 19,234 miles. This is the, well, didn't that just, oops, wrong direction. Anyway, that was what was at on the website. The worst weather in the world is how they describe Mount Washington in New Hampshire. I have some pictures of that, but it was comfortable at the base of the mountain, and there's the Cog Railway. We'll talk about Cog Railway if you're if you're interested. But it was in the 40s on the top of the hill, 60+ mile/hour winds, and we were in fog. So it was very damp. I went and stood on top of the hill and could not stand it. The wind was going so hard. And I'm realizing I'm getting older, my balance isn't as good as it used to be. So standing literally on top of a hill with the peak coming up and trying to balance myself with the wind blowing, I just sat down on top of the hill. How I began POTA. I was looking for a travel trailer, and I decided I wanted a teardrop trailer. I realized I didn't want a teardrop trailer after looking at them, but I Googled teardrop trailer, and Michael Martin's website came up. And Michael Martin's is KB9VBR. He's a very well-known POTA YouTuber and activator. I found him. That's his trailer on the right. That's Michael to the left of the trailer. That's what he uses for his POTA activations. He's in Wisconsin. And if you do Ham Alert, I actually have him on a Ham Alert announcement. So whenever he's on and the RBN picks him up, it dings me. But looking at the teardrop trailer, I also found the YouTube that he does. So I learned about, he doesn't do QRP POTA, but was a very active POTA operator, which made me Google or actually search on YouTube POTA, and that led me to Thomas Witherspoon, K4SWL, who's in North Carolina. He has the website qrpeer.com. Very well, also a well-known POTA YouTuber, QRpeers, and he reviews radios and antennas and such, and also pays for all of his travels by his YouTube videos. That's just Michael. So I was the first to activate Point Mugu State Park. And that was on December 12th of 2020. It was in the 10-meter contest. I went down to Thornhill Broome State Beach, which I'd been going to for years, taking the kids down and camping out there and such, having a good time. So I went to the POTA website, parksontheair.com, and then I found it's easier, POTA, POTA.app, to go to the website. And I went to the map and looked at all of the POTA sites and parks in Ventura County and along the beach. There are quite a few along the beach, and realized that none of the parks had been activated in Ventura County. So I made plans to go and activate all these parks, thinking I'm going to be the first one to activate them. And life gets in the way. Just very briefly, I'd been married for 48 years. My wife got sick. She had ovarian cancer. And in 20, well, actually, I should have known better, but she was given 6 months to live 7 months. And so I was her caregiver, which meant I wasn't going to go out and activate parks. So it's all her fault that I did not become the first to activate the parks. She would slap me around, and my kids, I had 3 daughters, they would slap me around for saying that, but then laughed. So in 2021, I had bought a trailer, and it does need some work, Mike, so I'll be, there you are. So I'll be taking it over to you whenever I get together with you. If you need trailer work, Michael is excellent. But I had the trailer. I had always heard of Lobster Con, which is in Maine. It's a QRP event in Maine. There's Salmon Con in the Northwest Washington, Seattle area. There's Ozark Con in the Ozarks, Branson, Missouri. NorCal QRP Club, when it was around. Doug Hendricks is still around doing Cal QRP. There's an event at Pacificon. But LobsterCon, I'd never, it'd been many, many years since I've been to Maine. I've made several cross-country trips over the years. But I told the kids, you know, do you mind if I take off and go to LobsterCon? So that was in 2021. So I did. I got in the truck and pulled the trailer across the country, and I spent a couple of months doing that. I didn't make any radio contacts during that time. But I went to LobsterCon. I had a shorter trip in 2022. I visited my stepbrother. He has a timeshare in Jackson Hole. So he invited me up there the last time he would be there. I visited my brother for some silly reason, moved to San Antonio. But so I went to visit him in San Antonio, and then a friend in Fredericksburg. And then on the way back, I went up to Seaside, Oregon, and to CPAC. But why POTA? Why Parks on the Air? I came back and from the 2022 trip and said, I looked at my POTA stats and such. And I said, I need to do this worked all states thing from the states. But Parks on the Air, it's parks on the air. You can't do that from your shack in the house. You get out in various locations. You can go to the beaches, you can go to desert, you can go up to mountains. You're not, I'm trying to convince myself I want to do some summits on the air, but that means I have to actually walk up a hill, and there are not that many drive ups. And while I used to do a lot of backpacking, I haven't recently. But it's still in Parks on the Air. It gets me outside. I don't have to worry about my antenna farm at my house is not extensive. I am considerate of the neighbors. I actually have a permit to put up an 80-foot tower, but I'm not going to do that. I love to camp. I want to get back into camping, so that's why POTA. I can go out, take a tent, take my trailer. It's easy. There's a lot of challenges to going out and making the contacts, but it's a fun challenge. And I have to throw stuff in. I have whatever my niece's son is to me, my nephew, he loves dumb jokes. and he's about 13 now. So I always send him dumb jokes, and all my jokes are dumb. So that's it. So I decided I'd go on this trip after the snow melted, and hopefully in the 2022 trip, I went the same time frame, or maybe, but I came through Colorado, coming back from seeing my brother in Jackson Hole. I headed down to Texas. I ran into snowstorms, sleet, hail, and this was in June. So I said, I'm gonna wait so I don't run into that again. But and then also I wanted to go to 4 Days in May, which is a QRP Amateur Radio Club International event. It's 4 days. It's in May, and it's in conjunction with Hamvention, which used to be Dayton. So it's at the 4 Days in May starts on Thursday. Hamvention starts on Friday. The 4 Days in May has grown tremendously. There were 350 people at this 4 Days in May convention at the Holiday Inn in Fairborn, Ohio. On my 2021 trip, I fell in love with Maine. I'm thinking of Maine as, I mean, any place where the ocean freezes can't be friendly. But I was there over the 4th of July in 2021. And I went to LobsterCon at that time. They asked me, where are you going next? And I said, I have no idea. No plans. So they said, well, Lubec is the easternmost city in the United States. And I found out it is not the easternmost city, it's the easternmost town. And I was corrected multiple times when I said easternmost city, and they said, no, it's the easternmost town. I forgot the name of the city, but the nearby city is the easternmost city. But so I wanted to go back to Lubec. You walk through the forest and the rhododendrons are thick and the ferns are thick. How do ferns grow in Maine? That can't be in my pea little mind. And I wanted to activate from all the 48 states. My eldest daughter was getting a master's degree in history from Gettysburg College. I went by the school. It's actually a real school. There's a football team. And she had the capstone project at this time, so we were going to meet up there. She took her sister and one of my granddaughters back to Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, so I was going to meet them there. That was the purpose and function for that trip. What did I do? Okay. So for POTA, so as I'm traveling, I have to remember several things. A new day in Parks on the Air starts at 0000 UTC. Well, that's 5 p.m. local time. So you can do an activation at 4 p.m. local time, and then stay in the same spot after 5 p.m., do another activation, and an activation is 10 QSOs, and you get counts for 2 activations. So how do I get so many activations? Well, that's one trick way to do it. Yes.
One question, the Hamvention, it said Dayton, Xenia. Who's Xenia?
It's not a who, it's a what.
It's a good question.
The Hamvention used to be in Dayton, Ohio, at the Hara Arena. The Hara Arena is someplace where you would not want to go. They actually toward the end. So they actually it no longer exists. They tore it down. But there have been, if you go to YouTube and Google or search for Hara Arena, there are some ghost type YouTube videos about people going through the Hara Arena, because it's kind of, one year they had, during Hamvention, they had a sewage backup. So the black water and a different type of black water, filled up the arena. So they moved over to the town of Xenia. So Xenia is a town where the Hamvention is located now.
And the Hera, is that the same as the one like they have in Reno, near?
No, this is,
No,
no,
it's not Hera.
it's HARA.
Oh,
And so now everyone still calls it, you go to Dayton because it's always the Dayton Hamvention.
Yeah.
Or the Dayton Hamfest, but it's now at Xenia. And it's very nice facility. It's at a racetrack, fairgrounds. So my first stop, I left May 7th. Well, actually, I left May 6th, but my first activation was in Las Vegas, May 7th. I think. But I activated the old Las Vegas Mormon Fort State Park. So that was my first activation. And one of the things you realize is that there are a lot of different parks that are out there that you would never think of as being some sort of a specialty or some sort. I'm learning in a lot of different locations. So I try to say it's POTA as an educational activity because I'm learning history. And so I mean, that's my excuse. I try to say that. I took off. I was there. I had a spot that I had to stop in Pine Bluffs, Wyoming. There's a reason there. There's a distillery there. And when I was there in 2021, I stopped there as a harvest host site. So I stayed there for overnight for a free night. And all you have to do is buy something. Well, I went in, took a tour. They showed me it was a family run business. The father, the dad, the owner was out reaping the wheat that they were using to make the mash. So I mean, it's nice. So anyway, I went along I-70. Colorado National Monument was the next stop near Grand Junction, but I had to make sure I was going to arrive in Ohio for FITM. That's Agnes. I have had several cats. I would get, I'd go to the car. Cat would run and jump into the car to go with me. I'm the only person, and Linda can attest to this. She says, well, go pet her, go pet her. I walk up to her. How long have we had? 3 years? I walk up to her and she runs away. I was able to get her into the trailer because I was going to make sure that she was taken care of. All the other cats, I take, put them in the trailer, take them in when I'm driving, take them into the car. They would sit in my lap while I'm driving. She wouldn't let me near her to pick her up to take her into the car, in the truck. So she stayed in the trailer the entire time. For over 3 months, the trailer was her home, except she got out twice. She whined for food. I fed her, gave her water, cleaned her litter box, and she would not go near me. So she's a typical girl. Hot Springs Recreation Area in Wyoming. That was my primary POTA setup. I think that's the KX2. I have a KX3 also. The Bioenno battery, the AX1 antenna with no, that's not the 40-meter coil. I do have a 40-meter coil for it if I want to go to 40 meters. 20 meters was usually the band that I would go to because I'm not sitting there for a long time trying to make contacts. I want to make my 10 contacts. If anyone else is around, I'll make contacts, but if there's no one else, I pack up and go. I could usually get this set up activate the park, picked up and gone in less than half an hour. But that's a Tufton support for the AX1 antenna. Works out great. And with the external battery, if I need 10 watts, it runs 10 watts. It just works. Yeah, it might, Bill. Okay.
Trying to run CWM sideband or just?
If I was in a real hurry, I just do CW. Being CW, you know, say 5 watts is like 50 or 100 watts in CW. But I did activate on sideband also. If I had a little more time, I would go to 15 meters, 17 meters, or 40 meters, just because I like to give the hunters that activation on those bands. Because there are awards for different bands and that type of. Went on to I'm blocked here, so I can't read everything. So went on to Nebraska, Missouri, Illinois. If you notice, it says 513 and 514. Well, that's the over the UTC time. So I'm just hanging out there. What I would frequently do is I would quit driving somewhere around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, park, go find the park I was going to activate. I didn't always camp in the park I was going to activate, and then make that activation, hang out for a while, get 2 activations, and I could just continue on. I went to 4 days in May, Hamvention. I did work in the ARRL booth a couple days during the Hamvention because I'm cheap. Working as a section manager, I could be part of the ARRL staff and get into Hamvention for free. And all I had to do is stand there for an hour or two and smile and talk to people. But they wouldn't pay my mileage, which was disappointing. We can talk about paying for mileage. I got in trouble for requesting mileage to go to the division convention in Yuma. I was told the mileage at 70 cents a mile is too much. I should have rented a car, which is cheaper. Yeah, that's what I said. And I said, look at my bill. I didn't bill for hotel room. But anyway, I left the Hamvention in 4 days of May on Monday. By Monday night, Tuesday morning, I was starting to feel ill. My plan was to go down to Natchez Trace Parkway. If you're not familiar with the Natchez Trace Parkway, back in the late 1700s, 1800s, it was a pathway from the Midwest north to the south, where a lot of stuff happened, legal and illegal. The slaves were running along that route to get out of the south, and such. So anyway, I stopped. I had to type in Kentucky. That was part of it. Talked about the Natchez Trace Parkway, and they talked about the Kentuckians would go down the Natchez Trace Parkway. But I stayed in this site. I was there for 2.5 days because all I did was sleep to recover from COVID. I didn't have a serious case, but I did have effects. So my dad is buried in Texarkana, or near Texarkana, in Stamps, Arkansas. So he was there on a trip and was killed in a car accident. So I went to the urgent care in Texarkana, and was told, keep taking the NyQuil. It's too late for whatever that Plaxoville or whatever it's called. So nothing we can do. And yeah, you have COVID, and they tested me for RSV and flu, and I didn't have that. Recreation area in Arkansas, the POTA Park. And that's where I actually activated from that location. The beautiful things you get to see, I mean, I was, except for the mosquitoes, it was a cool day in the shade. And I just had a great time out there. Why POTA? I mean, I'm activating, I'm on the radio, playing radio, having fun in a park such as this. My dad was born in Stamps, Arkansas. He and Billy Bob Thornton are from the same town. It's kind of cool to go to the cemetery where, I mean, he was killed here on a family reunion. And to go to the cemetery, this is where he wanted to be buried anyway, so it worked out well. Things happen for a reason. And so you go to the cemetery, and you can't see him too well, but all of those headstones there have the name Kitchens on them, going back to the early 1800s. So it's one of my dad's cousins. Although he worked at the paper mills in Louisiana, that's the only thing he ever did where he left the county where he was born. I mean, he stayed in the same county his entire life except to go to work. So I went along the Gulf Coast. One of the things I realized putting this together, I didn't take enough photographs. But the Sandhill Crane National Wildlife Refuge, in Louisiana, the Longfellow Evangeline State Historic Site, Longfellow wrote a poem, Evangeline, that talked about the Acadian and Creole issue, and that's what this area was. In their houses, and Acadian village was there. So I mean, it's not just activating a park, it's also seeing the history of the community in the area. Went along the coast to Alabama and the Gulf State Park. If you can't read that, it says, "Caution alligators, do not picnic near water's edge." And that's at Gulf State Park. So I thought that was silly. And to think about it, I mean, you can't go you have to be careful going picnic because an alligator may come up behind you. So I continued along the Gulf Coast, went to Florida, the Fort Pulaski National Monument in Georgia. I'm a retired firefighter from Los Angeles. I helped a lot. I taught at Valley College in the fire program for a while, helped a lot of kids become firefighters. One of them was a family friend, Joe Alamillo. He went to the Oxnard College, fire program, graduated well. He decided he wanted to go and become a firefighter in Savannah, Georgia. And so I went and saw him in Savannah. Girls do a lot of things to men. And one of them is make them move to Savannah, Georgia. So Joe's girlfriend her family is from Savannah. Joe went to Savannah. And they have a nice little baby girl, and they're getting along well. And he's doing very well in the fire department there. And actually has decided to stay there. His plan was to be there for a year and then move on. Girls. Yeah. I went up into the Blue Ridge Mountains. Smoky Mountains. The Smoky Mountains National Park along the Blue Ridge Parkway. I traveled along the Blue Ridge Parkway for a couple hundred miles. a POTA site. I mean, that's the view you get to have along the Blue Ridge Parkway, activating the park. I mean, I got distracted a lot by looking out in the Smoky Mountains, and you see why they're called Smoky Mountains. That's naturally occurring. The Pisgah National Forest. I have I took my buddy hex, the hex beam from the buddy pole folks. I took that along with me. This is the only time I put it up. That's a chameleon tactical dipole. That's right. The tactical delta loop, excuse me. That's you see in the background there. But yeah, my radio and my logging system, I paper log and then put it into the, okay. Oh. Agnes is still with me. Although I don't think she should be. It's
alligator.
I didn't think of that. Next time.
Walk your cat.
Like that.
Going back.
Looks like she claimed your bed. Where did you sleep?
She would not get near me. She slept on my feet.
Oh.
And that blanket was her blanket. I folded up and that's wherever that blanket was, she would be on it.
It looks like there's pictures of her on the blanket, but.
I forgot where that's an imitation Native American themed blanket. So I continued on, up the coast. The north end of the Blue Ridge Parkway, stopped in, near, not too far from Gettysburg, but stopped in Pennsylvania. I stopped there, activated Pennsylvania, went into New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, DC, and all those areas there to activate those areas. Okay. Okay. Have to be smarter than the machine.
Stop sharing.
Okay. Share screen. Oh, interesting. It's not showing my slides.
Was it on a removable drive?
No. Technical difficulties.
We're at 26.
Yeah, you're off. You need to re-sign into your Outlook or to your office account.
There's your office product is inactive.
You think you have something to say?
Oh, it's PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Anyway.
Stu, do you want to take a moment to say something about Linux while we wait?
Open office.
Anyway, I continued on up the coast to Western New York section where I met up with a local club. And I joined them for field day. Uh, the club was a 3 alpha. So it's just a tiny little operation. And what okay. So I'll just keep talking and we'll pretend there's a screen. So anyway,
John,
yes,
Did you have trouble, getting camping on the spot, all these various parks to, go into?
only in the Western United States. Every place else, no problem. But then I didn't go into national parks. Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I would make a reservation. A lot of them had to be by reservation. I'd make a reservation 2 or 3 days before I'd get there. Like the Smoky Mountains and Pisgah National Forest, that was no problem. Which kind of in a way surprised me.
Did you stay on BLM or Forest?
Yes, I would do that also. I did stay in BLM because I'm cheap. Harvest Hosts, if you're familiar with Harvest Hosts, started off with farmers opening up their farm for campers to stop by for a night. And they would you could stay for free at night, and they'd have a farm stand or something, and you go buy something from them. Wineries and farmers started Harvest Hosts, or were the first ones to be part of Harvest Hosts. So that was. So I stayed there, and a lot of very nice campsites. Few of them had hookups, but I'm fully self-contained in my trailer. I have a composting toilet. I have solar, and actually I cheated for POTA. Recently, I was a camp host down in Thornhill Broom State Beach, where the camp host does not have any utilities, no hookups.
You got a big inverter in there too.
Yes. Yes. So so I have a Ford F-150 truck that has a basically a generator on a plug-in. I can run AC off in the bed of the truck. There's an inverter off that, so I can plug into there if I needed to. But Thornhill Broom State Beach is in Point Magoo State Park, so I had to activate the park every day I was there, without even trying, and I can leave everything set up permanently. Well, it looks like I'm going to have some issues, and I'm not going to this is disappointing. Anyway,
We'll say that park was already initiated by me.
okay. So anyway, I went up the coast, and enjoyed that area. Went back to Lubec, Maine, and LobsterCon was modified this last year, and that last year was actually the last year of LobsterCon. The campground where they are holding the event is a camp out. The campground was sold this last year, and they're doing a complete remodel, so it's not able to be used. But so I went to the lobster, oh, share screen, this one. Okay. Have to be smarter than the machine. Why am I not able to log into Zoom?
Oh, you're into Zoom.
Yeah, okay, I am, yeah, okay.
Oh, wait, maybe.
Let's see. CVARC. That's not what it is. But then
No, you're not. No, I guess you need to log into Zoom again.
yeah. Next meeting. Next meeting. Okay, I think I'm back.
Yeah. Someone looks a lot like you.
Only you would get that key.
Yeah. Whose mouse is which?
Okay, now I have to open up. There, okay. Sorry about this. I'll make it quick. So we went up to. I think I.
This is solar power. Yeah, just have it. Solar fire.
Speaking of solar flare, anyone trying to operate or make contacts in 20 meters last few days?
Yeah. Everything was out today.
So I continued up the coast and met this is my granddaughter. She's last year she was 10, so she's 11. We were at stopped at Hershey Park. So what do 10-year-olds need to do? We need to go to the Hershey the theme park at Hershey Park. And here she's making her own Hershey bar. Outside of DC is where I camped. My eldest daughter thought she was doing a great thing and getting an Airbnb for us, for those of us while she went to school. We went to DC and went through the Smithsonian's and such. But the Airbnb didn't work too well. So I stayed here. She thought I could park the trailer in the driveway and that wasn't good. So I got a KOA and stayed there. This is Philadelphia. My wife was of Japanese descent, hence the name Sachiko for the cat. And we had to do something Asian in Philadelphia. So Chinese and Japanese historically hate each other. But we did go to a Chinese event and they no longer hate each other in the United States. So good, it came back. So from there went back up to the LobsterCon event was delayed by 2 weeks, but I'd already made reservations at the campground in Lubec the week after I was leaving LobsterCon. So anyway, I went up to Lubec and then came back down in Maine for LobsterCon. These are the various locations I went once I left the LobsterCon area. This is out of order. This is back in the Chinese festival in Philadelphia. There is a picture there of Keachie State Park in Vermont. There's a picture there too of the river.
Your
Uh,
imagination.
Yes,
And up there's.
and there's a picture of the dam, the river's flowing over the dam, right?
Yeah.
That's a snowstorm.
Fort Halifax is a POTA site, 7980 US 7982. And you have to put the US and the hyphen in the 7982 to make it work. And that's the KX2 on the picnic table in Fort Halifax.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, there it is. Back to a picture. This is an absolutely beautiful campsite, very quite rustic, actually, which is good. But that's from my campsite, the sunset, and another sunset. This is not a POTA park there, but this is Quaddy Head State Park. And there are several, it seems to me like every street corner has a lighthouse. Which tells me that they had a lot of issues with boats running into rocks. But the classical lighthouses, that is Campobello Island. And at low tide, that is mud. So there's a lot of very high tide change and fluctuation. If you don't know Campobello Island, that's where Franklin Roosevelt had his summer White House, winter White House, whatever. And that's the only national park that is not in the United States. So that Campobello Island is in Canada. So I don't know what is going to happen when Canada becomes a state. Park. But yeah, it could be a state park. When I was there in 21, Canada was still limiting access due to COVID. And there's a bridge from the important location in Lubec, the Lubec Brewery. And you sit there and with the retired Catholic priest who would go to the Lubec Brewery and everyone would buy him drinks, and beer. He was a great information source for the history of the area. And he, as you're sitting there and watching cars go over the bridge, he would say, that car will be turning around in just a few minutes. Because they wouldn't let you into Canada unless you had the right documentation and a reason. However, the Canadians over on Campobello, which also is a private area, could come over because they were the workers who worked in the restaurants in Lubec. So they had no problem coming back and forth across the border. They even had a lighthouse in the pond in the campground.
You don't want to hit the rock in the pond.
And that the little 10-foot John boat there. Now Jeff knows this site. In presentation not too long ago, Jeff talked about being on top of those towers. That's well, you know it better than I do, the submarine low frequency communications system. They looked at me kind of funny when I pulled up to the gate and wanted to get in to the site. And it reminded me of when I was in the Air Force and I was in the fire department of the Air Force and I crossed over the wrong barrier. There's a line marked on the flight line. We would go out and wash down leaking fuel from aircraft. And instead of going to the efficient side, would drive the tanker right over the barrier. Well, this is the night before President Ford was coming in, and you weren't supposed to drive over the barrier at that time. So I was proned out with M16s pointed at my head, and would threaten to be arrested. Anyway, so I had a great chief. He was a civilian chief. He came out and said, okay, you can arrest him. we're shutting down the flight line. Because our firefighter is not gonna be here to take care of the flight. So he took care of me. The White Mountain National Forest, and hopefully my,
Boy, wasn't it?
there it is. That is the cog railway going up to Mount Washington State Park, which is on the hill. I like trains, and this was fun. Let's see if the photos actually work. No, they're not going to. Okay, I have photos of oh, there it is. This is
It is fun.
I got to sit in the front of the train going up the hill. The train, there's the engine and the passenger car. They're not connected. The engine pushes the car up the hill, and then it keeps the car from freewheeling down the hill on the way down. But in case something goes wrong, there is a brakeman in the passenger car. And they explained that to us and how it happened. That's, again, the top of the hill. That is my only SOTA activation. And that's a 10-pointer.
10 points with a train, right?
With the train.
They got it so easy back there.
There is a trail up to the top of the hill. And the conductor on the train talked about the silly people who walk up the hill. Frequently get lost. Several people die every year because they're not aware of the weather change. And it's actually very dry. Niagara Falls, that is a POTA park, but I did not activate it. Okay, come on. That's a different view of Niagara Falls. That's the backside of water. From there, I went across the country along what I would call the northern route. Went into South Dakota, Custer State Park. It's interesting. Recently, we've seen the removal of anything that would look negative toward the United States from national parks, talking about how the mistreatment of Native American groups and such. Custer State Park is a state park. They're not changing that. And this is, that state park is actually run by the local reservations and the tribes. I activated Custer State Park. And yes, that is 14.055.5, which is where I usually hung out. CW. More of Custer State Park showing
Don't worry.
yes. My daughter's favorite president, my eldest daughter, she's a high school history teacher. And she told me about Theodore Roosevelt State Park or National Park in North Dakota. There it is. That block structure in the back was where I first set up. It's open on one side overlooking the Badlands. Well, I need to hurry up, sorry. But I made one contact, that was it in 45 minutes. And I said, what's happening here? And I realized that I was set up on a picnic table inside the block building. And once I went outside, set up on the hood of my truck, I was fine. So the RF was being blocked by the block building and the rebar in the building. This is showing the National Park police officer sauntering up to me. As police officers do. I used to put folks in jail for setting fires. I know how police officers will want. And he came up to me and said, I checked inside to make sure what you were doing was legal, and you are legal, but what are you doing? So we had a nice talk and I explained to him that actually Parks on the Air came about because of the national parks. 2016, the National Parks on the Air, ARRL, helped the national parks celebrate their 100th anniversary. This is Heart Mountain. It's where my mother-in-law's family spent World War II. She graduated high school in Heart Mountain after she was taken out of a school in Long Beach, a high school in Long Beach. And I had to stop there because that's her name, her family's name is in the books and the history of the Heart Mountain. That is a picture of Mount Lassen State Park, or National Park campground where I am parked. And that was the end of my POTA. I did cross the border. I was Northern California, Modoc County area, Lassen area. I crossed over into Oregon so I could activate Oregon. And I said, going through the North Dakota, South Dakota, across Utah and such, record heat. I mean, it was 106, 107 degrees. And I'd been out on the road for 3 months. And I said, I'm not driving up to Washington. So I did not activate Washington.
Oh.
And that's the end of. I'm sorry it took so long.
Anybody have any questions?
You want to unfair?
Yeah, Jeff.
The rules are national and state parks, but not county parks and Oregon parks.
Correct. There's no count. It's national and state approved sites. And there are rules as to what can be approved and not approved. And the rules have become more restrictive, but they're adding parks literally monthly.
What constitutes an activation?
You have to have your entire station within the park confines. There are people who'll try to activate. Well, I can't get in, so I'm going to activate on the fence line, and I'm on the outside of the fence. That doesn't count. You have to be on the inside of the fence. But you can activate the Channel Islands National Park from the visitor center. You don't have to be out on an island.
Ooh.
And I have a counterpoise that is sitting on the roof of the National Park office because I was up in the tower and I didn't have it attached well and it fell off. And they wouldn't let me go on the roof to retrieve it. So anyway, you have to be there. It has to be an approved site and you have to make 10 valid QSOs. And the activator is the person who submits the log. The hunter gets no credit by submitting. There is no way for a hunter to submit a log in POTA. The activator has to take care of that person's hunter qualification. So there are times when I only made 5 QSOs.
Can a park only be activated once?
A park can be activated hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. One of the slides I had there talked about I activated 74 different parks during my trip. I have over 20,000 POTA QSOs. I've activated 684 parks. No, I'm sorry, 158 parks I've activated. I have 84 different parks as a hunter. So as you're doing an activation and you do a park to park contact, you can, that would be as a hunter also. And then also, what I was getting at is if you make only 4 contacts, you still have to upload your log for the hunter, those 4 hunters to get credit. Because they only get credit if the activator uploads the log. So different than SOTA. SOTA, the chaser uploads the log and the activator uploads their log, and they don't talk. Does that answer the question? Sure. Okay. There are ways to post your activation and such. Yeah, Bill?
You mentioned the Blue Parkway.
Yes,
This is the national park.
yes.
That's where Thomas lived. There's a lot of this.
Yeah, Thomas Witherspoon lives in. No, I didn't. I sent him an email and said, I'm in the area, you want to meet up? And he said, sure. I was in Maine by then. So anyway, yeah, you look at his YouTube videos, he's from Pisgah, he's a lot, and he lives in the area.
John, did you, spot yourself or did you just pop up in a park?
I usually spotted myself if I had access. When you spot yourself, I almost view that as cheating. Because you send out CQ and literally you spot yourself, set up, tell them what frequency you're on, you find a clear frequency. What I usually do is go around and act as a hunter for making 2 or 3 contacts. And then I will go over, call CQ POTA, and literally within 2 minutes, I'm getting contacts, I'm getting called. And there are, and that's where I can make my my activation usually with the actual 10 contacts, usually within 10 minutes, 10, 12 minutes.
Is there a P2P like a S2S?
Yes, yes. But that is usually done on sideband or digital. You don't have to exchange the park numbers that people do, but you don't have to do that as long as both activators upload their log. The computer software, the POTA software, takes care of making it a park to park. Yeah.
Any of those parks that you went to were any of the troopers?
Several were, yes. The Blue Ridge Parkway, that's Smoky Mountains National Park and Blue Ridge Parkway. They're both POTA parks. I actually got to, didn't see pictures of it, but I actually got to walk the Appalachian Trail, about 5 miles of it. And that's all of the scenic trails across the country are POTA parks. Pacific Crest Trail goes through Big Bear. I get twofers there all the time.
A twofer is when 2 parks overlap in some area where it counts for both. So the hunter also gets 2 points,
Right.
because they're hunting on separate.
And it counts as 2 QSOs.
Yeah.
So if I'm having trouble getting my 10, that counts, twofer counts as 2. There's been a discussion. I caused some problems. I gave a POTA talk up in Big Bear at the Big Bear Hamcation, which we can't call it Hamcation. Because Hamcation is trademarked by down in Florida. But I talked about like Point Magoo State Park is within Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area. The person who coordinates who approves the parks for California said that doesn't count as a twofer. It's not a proper overlap.
Yeah.
And I said, that's 2. And what we got that going was a discussion about what is a twofer up in Big Bear. He was saying a national forest campground is not a park because it's managed by a private company. He said, no, it's a national forest campground.
Yeah.
And it got up to POTA management, and management said, no, that's a twofer.
Yes.
National Forest Campground is a national forest. We don't care. The city of Big Bear Lake is surrounded by the San Bernardino National Forest. So the city of Big Bear Lake is you can activate the San Bernardino National Forest from the city of Big Bear Lake. So there's the Boulder Bay Park is, yeah. Yeah, Big Bear City is in the county. Big Bear Lake City is a separate city. Any other?
There's a question in the chat.
Oh,
For Victor,
yeah. Hi, Victor. How are you?
he has it written there. How do you identify for POTA on FT8?
You don't have to. When the when you spot yourself on the POTA site, you put in your frequency. When you put in 14.074, the software knows your FT8. So it'll say FT8. The other thing is because of Keith, I use JTDX, which I have preferred over WSJT. On line 6 on the transmit things, you can say CQ and then type in POTA, and then your call sign and grid square. And then when you're sending CQ, it says CQ POTA. So that is another way. I don't, on FT8, when I do digital, which I do frequently, especially with band conditions recently, when I'm doing a digital communications, I don't even spot myself. I just go, because there are people sitting there waiting for people to work on FT8. And then when I put in my log, it doesn't matter if anyone knows you're a POTA site. You put in your log as a POTA operation, and I'll have hundreds of QSOs on digital or CW or actually sideband. They don't even know I'm a POTA operator, especially on digital. They don't know I'm POTA. I have to push away the Japanese QSOs on FT8. I get so many. Any other questions? Yes. What do you want?
Yesterday, you did 2 parks in 2 states, and I thought that was so impressive. You were in
Impressive or dumb? One of them.
It's a fine line.
and Delaware.
I did that, especially in that area. You have 10 states within 5 miles of each other. So I planned it out. So I went into DC, went into Rhode Island the same, and I think Delaware all on the same day.
But I had you on the POTA site.
Yeah, the Four Corners Park is a state park as well, so you work 4 states, 4 parks, 1 spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that 4 corners for the 4 states. Yeah. 4
One
Pat
foot
Park,
here.
POTA, 4 states at once.
Yeah, I've worked several people there. Wait a minute, I'm gonna move to another state.
Yeah.
And yeah,
This is in the technician book. The state you're in is where your antenna is.
Oh,
You gotta move the antenna over to.
John? Great.
okay, great.